Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Chris, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we're advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube live or later, and we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room. You'll get the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Chris, and welcome everyone who is with me in the Zoom room right now, and those of you who are watching on YouTube, whether you're watching live or later. We appreciate you and appreciate you showing up. Showing up is a spiritual practice, right? No matter what's going on in your life, showing up is something that you can do, and you've done it, and we're happy to have you here. So, our broadcast date is Sunday, January 26th, and before we get into our message for today, wanted to note that the Lunar New Year begins on Wednesday, January 29th at Unity of Fredericksburg. We had an in-person get-together lunch this past week celebrating the Lunar New Year. So the Lunar New Year marks the first new moon of the lunar calendar, and it's based on the 12 full cycles of the moon in a year. It's celebrated by many Asian communities, including Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese. There are 12 Chinese zodiac animals, and one is associated with each lunar year. So how that works is the entire year of 2025 is the year of the snake. So everyone born in 2025, they say, will exhibit characteristics of being wise, intuitive, and charismatic. And those born in the year of the snake are also known for being calm, strategic, and good at problem solving. So if you want to know what your sign is, what the animal is on the year that you're born, you can just do a quick internet search and discover that and learn all about that if that's something that would interest you. So once again, we've been saying this all month long, the month of January. Happy New Year once again. So happy Lunar New Year. So today, we are beginning our journey through the season for nonviolence. So, what is the season for nonviolence? So, Season for Nonviolence is a global grassroots campaign dedicated to raising awareness about the transformative power of nonviolence. So the season was established by Arun Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi's grandson, along with the Leadership Council of the Association for Global New Thought. Now, Unity is a part of the umbrella of ministries called New Thought. And the Season for Nonviolence is a yearly event celebrating the philosophies and lives of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. So the season, the specific dates, it lasts 64 days. So we will be working with this through the whole first quarter of the year, beginning today. The actual dates for the season, it begins on January 30th. So that's looking at my calendar. So that's Thursday. And that is the assassination date for Gandhi, January the 30th, and it lasts until April the 4th, which is the assassination date for Martin Luther King Jr. So For those of you who are following us on our newsletter, there's a link in the newsletter so you can learn more about it, do your own reading about it. So what will we be doing as we follow the season for nonviolence? Well, obviously on Sunday mornings, I'm going to be following the season and bringing up different aspects of nonviolence. There are daily practices that are a part of this season. And again, you can find a link in our newsletter. That link goes to a PDF document that is hosted by the Gandhi Institute. So you can, if you wish, you could print that out so that you could follow the daily practices, or you could just, visit there every day online. If you're not into printing things out, you could just go online to follow it. You can also follow it using our social media. So the Facebook page and Instagram for Unity of Fredericksburg will be sharing the daily practices for all 64 days. We're going to be using some wonderful resources from a Unity minister named Reverend Kelly Isola. These are, memes that she has created for each day in the 64-day process. And just as a side note, Unity of Fredericksburg will be sending a tithe to Reverend Kelly Isola because we will be using her wonderful work on our social media. So we also have, as everyone knows who is local to Fredericksburg, Virginia, in-person events. And our in-person events, many of those will be chosen to work along with the season of nonviolence. We've got a couple of lectures that folks are going to be going to see at the University of Mary Washington. And we have a workshop coming up on March the 8th that'll be announced soon with a woman who's created a wonderful process called unitive justice. So this links in wonderfully with the season for nonviolence. So we have a lot of good things coming up around this. So let's kind of talk about, what is nonviolence? Now, I think before you all know that I like to go and work with words, right? So, but before we can talk about nonviolence, I think we need to look at defining what is violence, right? So this is a word that we know what it means, but I always like to look deeper, right? So as I was poking around, a definition offered by the World Health Organization of violence: the intentional use of force or power, threatened or actual, against oneself, another person, or against a group or community. Now, I was drawn to that definition because it really kind of points out for us here at Unity of Fredericksburg, kind of the different arenas that we'll be talking about as we go through the season for nonviolence. So, number one, because our mission here is about spiritual transformation, we are going to be talking about nonviolence and violence on a spiritual level, on an individual level, like within our consciousness, our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, our attitudes, at the level of our relationships with others, and at the level of the communities that we interact with out in the world and the world at large. So, what is nonviolence beyond being the opposite of violence? So, here's a definition that I found just with an internet search. Nonviolence, the use of peaceful means, not force, to bring about political or social change. So, as far as those kind of different arenas that we'll be looking at, that clearly is sort of the community and world at large that definition associates nonviolence with, bringing about political or social change. And what I want to start talking about today is on the spiritual level, because that's why we're here, right? So let me give you a little warm up to that with a quote from Robert Lawrence Smith in A Quaker Book of Wisdom. A leap of faith is required if we are to believe that nonviolence can heal a violent world. Let me just repeat that. I want you to really hear it. A leap of faith is required if we are to believe that nonviolence can heal a violent world, that turning the other cheek when struck instead of striking back can end a fight. We need faith to believe that by loving our enemy, we can eventually transform them into an ally. That even when nonviolence fails to achieve peace, it can succeed in curing hate. So that's a pretty juicy quote, isn't it? I think we'll come back to that a little bit later and just remind ourselves. So when we contemplate nonviolence on a spiritual level, we kind of have to ask, why does violence even exist out there in the world, in the material world? So if we truly believe in the one presence, the one power, sometimes we refer to that as God, goodness, why or how does violence come to be? Right? We know that as we express the Christ at the point of us, we have access to infinite divine ideas like life, substance, power, all that good stuff. And we have the choice to use these divine ideas in the name of goodness, right? Aligned with our divine nature. We also have the choice to use all these divine ideas in service to the fears generated by the ego, right? By the personality, the human brain, aligning what we're doing, what we're thinking with the concerns of the material world. We have that choice. So does every other person in the world. So I looked at the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. That's one of the references that I use almost every week to kind of see what it has to say about violence, about nonviolence. And here's what it referred to. Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven had been taken by violence and force. So Jesus was talking about that in his ministry. Specifically, this is from Matthew chapter 11, verse 12. And here's the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary saying it is possible to use the life, substance, and power that form the basis of the kingdom of heaven in selfish ways. That is the work of the selfish personality. So some of us would say, well, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. People do stuff. That's the way the world is, always has been. Now, I kind of have a challenge for you this morning, my friends, as we move into this season of nonviolence. That is just the way it is because we believe it to be so, because we're holding that belief in our consciousness. And it's an element of the collective consciousness where we're all kind of connected and we believe certain things. And that's why it's self-perpetuating. So my question for you, my friends, is during this season of nonviolence, are you willing to work on releasing that belief that that's just the way it is? Referring back to this quote from Robert Lawrence Smith from A Quaker Book of Wisdom, a leap of faith is required if we are to believe that nonviolence can heal a violent world. So I have something that I would like for you to consider practicing. Over the next week, or whenever it comes to mind, I invite you to work on releasing your belief in human violence. You can do this in your prayer time, whatever your spiritual practice is. Work on clearing this from your consciousness because you can. Are you willing to do it? Take a breath. All right, let me give you a quote to kind of back that up a little bit. This is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Nonviolence means avoiding not only external physical violence, but also internal violence of spirit. You not only refuse to shoot another person, you refuse to hate them. So, there we go. Now, let's move on to talking about kind of, from that spiritual level, let's come down to the level of individual consciousness, right? So when we talk about our consciousness, we're talking about our thoughts, feelings, beliefs, attitudes. What kind of thoughts and feelings are you holding in consciousness? Do your beliefs and attitudes reflect a violent or non-violent consciousness? And are your thoughts and feelings really aligned with what you say you believe on a spiritual level? So, with regards to how you show up for yourself, with yourself, how you talk with yourself, are you treating yourself with kindness and compassion? Do you hold yourself to unreasonable standards and then criticize yourself about it? When things are difficult, are you encouraging or critical with yourself? I'd like to invite you to consider another practice for this week when it comes to how you deal with yourself. And this is an affirmation written by, this is a book that I've referenced before, and I'm sure I will again, by Dr. Kristen Neff. It's called Self-Compassion. And she has this little affirmation that she's written. Let me read it for you. I'll read it for you a couple times. Just let it sink in. And this has to do with how you deal with yourself in your own consciousness when things are rough, when you're having a hard time. So here is what she suggests, and what I'm suggesting you consider as a practice is this affirmation. This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need. I'm going to read that one more time. This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need. So, that's all about kind of how we relate with ourselves, right? So now we're going to look at your thoughts and feelings as far as how you relate with others. So when you observe other people, how easy is it for you to witness the Christ light in all people? All people, not just the ones you like, right? How quickly do you offer the benefit of the doubt in your own mind? Like giving people grace in situations where they may not be behaving nicely? Or how quickly do you shift into judgment? Are you blaming or name calling other people in your mind? I invite you in the days, weeks to come to just observe your thoughts about others, whether it's in your daily life, driving, going shopping, or if it's things that you see in the news. Just notice the quality of your thoughts and feelings. I'm not asking you to do anything with them. Just pay attention to that inner monologue that's going about what's going on in the world. So take a breath with that right here. Now, let me give you a quote to kind of shore up that topic. Again, a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. Here is the true meaning and value of compassion and nonviolence when it helps us to see the enemy's point of view, to hear their questions, to know their assessment of ourselves. For from their view, we may indeed see the basic weaknesses of our own condition. And if we are mature, we may learn and grow and profit from the wisdom of the brothers and sisters who are called the opposition. All right. So now we're moving on to looking at how we engage with our community. And our community could be considered our family, our friends, our local community. So ask yourself, how are you showing up in your community? What do your actions communicate about your state of mind, about the quality of your consciousness? As you go about your daily affairs, are you expressing kindness and compassion? Or is there an underlying fear of losing out to others, like that kind of need to be the first in line or get the stuff at the store before other people get it? All of that. So just looking at that. For those of you who are active on social media, could the things that you share in that arena be described as encouraging, inspiring, comforting? Or are you participating in perpetuating things like name calling and shaming? So, just as you did with your thoughts and feelings about yourself, and I want you to take the time, if you will, to practice in the days and weeks to come, showing how, noticing how you show up in the world. I'm not asking you to do anything, just notice the energy that you bring to your interactions, to your communication out in the world. Here's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Nonviolence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being. So it's not something we take on and off, like we're all nice with our friends, then we get out in traffic and we're calling names and yelling at people. So just notice. We're kind of taking an inventory today, and I'm asking you to just sort of look at yourself. And I'm not asking for a report card. I'm not asking you to do anything. Just notice, right? Now, some of us in this life have the opportunity to show up on a larger community level, on the larger world stage, if you will. Now, most of us, certainly, statistically, most of us, are just witnessing others showing up on the world stage, right? People who are leaders of nations, who are leaders of organizations. Most of us are just kind of watching that. In this season of nonviolence, I just ask you to witness this. Witness what it is that you're seeing from people who are interacting on that level. See it with a keen eye in the days and weeks to come. The nonviolence approach that was modeled by Gandhi and Martin Luther King was intended for bringing about change at this larger political and social level, addressing societal and government systems. So here's a quote from Gandhi. Nonviolence is the greatest force at the disposal of mankind. It is mightier than the mightiest weapon of destruction devised by the ingenuity of man. And here's a quote from Martin Luther King. Nonviolence is absolute commitment to the way of love. Love is not emotional bash. It is not empty sentimentalism. It is the active outpouring of one's whole being into the being of another. So when it comes to the world stage, that kind of larger community that most of us just kind of observe. We rarely have a chance to actually participate on that level. Here in the United States, we have been blessed this week to witness what author Aaron Nyquist referred to as, and I quote, a master class in the kind of prophetic engagement needed for this season. And the example of nonviolence that I'm talking about was provided by Bishop Marianne Edgar Buddy, an Episcopal bishop who received her training here in Virginia at Virginia Theological Seminary and has served as the Bishop of Washington since 2011. So during a prayer service at the Washington Cathedral, a prayer service associated with the inauguration of the President of the United States, Bishop Mary Ann Buddy spoke truth to power. She spoke her truth, the truth of her divine nature, based on the gospel that she believes, and she did so in a way that exemplifies nonviolent communication. So I'm going to be referencing again an article from Aaron Nyquist as he wrote about this. He's an author of a book called The Eternal Current, and it may not even be an article. It may have just been a social media post, but he says, in her address, Buddy was fearlessly gentle. Bishop Marianne must have felt some concern in speaking truth to power, yet she didn't overcome her fear through bravado or speaking louder. She was gentle, humble. She embodied the mercy of which she spoke. Again, I'm referring to this article from Aaron Nyquist. He points out that's kind of like the first point he wants to make is how gentle she was. Second, she centered in her talk and lifted up marginalized people, asking gently for mercy and compassion without attacking her intended audience. Quoting Aaron Nyquist, third, Bishop Marianne invited all of us to something higher than politics or winning or losing. She called us to a value that should unite us, mercy. She wasn't arguing for a particular policy, but for a particular posture. The profoundly Christian posture of merciful compassion, especially for the poor and marginalized. And I finish off by reading from the closing of Nyquist's article. By cutting through the bluster with gentle and fearless truth that centers the humanity of the marginalized, Bishop Mary Ann offered a vision for what love-soaked resistance can look like in these troubling days. May we go and do likewise. Yes, indeed. Let us go and do likewise, my friends. So, as we work through this season of nonviolence, let us see if we can take on the mantle of nonviolence as we go forward. I encourage you to embrace the daily practices that are offered the season of nonviolence. return on Sunday mornings or watch later, and as a community explore the divine potential for nonviolence as a path forward for us as individuals, as a community, as a nation. It's not necessary for us to throw mud just because others have thrown mud. We can do better than that. Let's explore how together. Got a couple more quotes and then we'll move into our time of meditation. One more quote from Mahatma Gandhi. Nonviolence requires a double faith, faith in God and also faith in man. And here's a quote from the message at Unity of Fredericksburg last week from Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson in his message from January 19th. Now is the time to be a healing and beneficial presence in the world. So it is, my friends. Let's be like Bishop Mary Ann Buddy, gentle, merciful, and yet standing tall and anchored in the truth of what we know in our hearts. So let's take all this into our time of meditation. Take a few deep breaths, my friends, and just get more comfortable. However it is that you are seated, give yourself a little wiggle. Let's get more comfortable. I'm going to open up our meditation with a quote from the Positive Prayer Wheel, which is a little thing you can get from unity.org. It has wonderful little meditations. So listen to this one, my friends. Take a deep breath. I am a radiating center of peace. I am calm and peaceful in the presence of confusion, anger, or distress. Centered in the awareness of my oneness with God, my thoughts turn to peace, love, and compassion. My words are kind, and my actions are expansive and constructive. I embody and radiate peace. So we'll do that now in our time of meditation, my friends, claiming I cultivate peace in mind, heart, and body. I cultivate peace in my thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and attitudes. I cultivate peace through my presence in the world. I cultivate a peaceful consciousness as I observe the world around me. My regard for others is peaceful, encouraging, and compassionate. As we move into a few moments of silence together, see the peace in your heart and the heart of others. As we begin to bring our attention back to the here and now, bring that feeling of peace along with you. Bring it with you into your consciousness, thoughts and feelings, beliefs and attitudes that you are working with. See them bathed in peace. See yourself as a light of peace and nonviolence as you go about your life and your daily affairs. See that energy of peace rippling out into the world, knowing that as two or more are gathered together, the more of us that focus on that and not on the troubles that we perceive, the more that we can make a difference in this world. And let's close this time of meditation with an affirmation. I'll say it once and then you can repeat it with me at home. I am a peaceful presence in this world. I am a peaceful presence in this world. So I am. And so you are, my friends. Thank you so much for being here today, whether you're watching live or later. And now I'm going to hand it back to our friend Chris, who's our service leader today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that message. It was beautiful. And thank you for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, and learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation. You can support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks for watching and see you